Do you hear that? There's a loose belt on somebody's truck. Who said that to us?
I don't know. But
you're supposed to know these things.
It was so ridiculous. Yeah, we got called out for vaping on the podcast, and someone commented on the video asking, "Is someone vaping in the background? Who is it?" And I'm like,
that's the funnier part. The fact that they knew the tone. Like, that's a sharp C.
Well, the question was, who's vaping on the podcast? And it's like, okay, there's only one person speaking at a time. So if you hear the noise while someone is talking, it's the other person that's vaping.
It's my girlfriend in the background.
But the answer ended up being both of us, because both of us were vaping last week.
I thought, sure enough, he was just gonna be like, "It was Jay. It was clearly Jay."
You thought I was gonna do that?
Yeah, I did. Can I ask you a question? Anytime marijuana gets brought up on the Schmoes Know live show, do you get a little weirded out by it?
I do.
I do too.
But following that, it's always why?
Exactly.
Why am I weirded out by it? Why do I have that weird context?
One, they're not Jedi Council.
Weird construct.
They have abandoned, like, this show is not for kids, especially in the old days. My word. But regardless, it's also legal there. Just completely legal. It's as legal as them drinking on the show.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I get so weirded out by it.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not weirded out by it in general. That's not something I don't know. I just
suck at conservative principles.
Yeah. That's right. And we just lost half of our audience.
Good. Not good. I shouldn't have said that. Please stop.
I love they do really well on iTunes. What Christian gives us. It's like, yes, that's supposed to, like, let everyone know, yes, they're doing fine, but it's just mainly highlights that we don't do as well on YouTube.
It's like the opposite for Sight and Sound. I'm like, well, maybe just don't look at our iTunes numbers. That's not true. I feel fine about both.
Like Sight and Sound's iTunes numbers versus what we... Yeah.
I feel fine for both.
Even though they're radically different.
They are, but there's a reason for that. Hello, YouTube algorithm.
What a weird opening. So, are we promising are we going to not vape on this episode? From here on out?
Like, sure.
You know that'll give you a butterfly lung. Or
what?
Popcorn lung.
You know that'll give you moth mouth.
Butterfly lung. That's so stupid. What's going on, Schmoes Know podcast subscribers? My name is Ryan Snelling, and welcome to After Schmoe.
What is this?
I was trying to make the joke. I'm only saying hello to podcast subscribers.
Oh, okay. I thought about just taking in the show in podcast form this week.
I'm not even gonna let you. Yeah, okay, that's Jaye Williams over there.
Yeah, what's up?
So
what's good?
Let's
just make this the most weird show possible.
It's already there.
This is the first time I've been in your room in months. You did it. It's clean. It's nice. I like it.
I still got some dirty underwear over there, though.
I don't want
to. No, that's not underwear. That's socks.
Can never tell the difference these days
between dirty underwear. You're shaking you immediately started shaking your head after saying that because you have no idea what that means. Now I feel better about my butterfly lung comment.
Yeah. Said it for effect.
How do you feel about the corner that I have in my room where I film my YouTube videos?
You want me to review it right now?
I've got some pictures up, but that's the corner where I put my tripod, my LED lights.
It's sparse. It's almost as sparse as that new Schmoes Know movie review set that we're going to talk about a little bit later. It needs a few more things.
Sparse? Yeah, it does.
I think you need to backlight it with some colors.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah.
That's something that Stuckman and FlickPick do. And
we should start a podcast together and like bounce ideas off each other.
Okay. You know what?
What?
I'm in the mood. You just critiqued my corner here. I'm in the mood to critique some Collider. Because that's what you and I are qualified for.
Hit me with it.
We are able to, we were given this platform, and we are able to, without any repercussions at all, criticize Collider.
What are they going to do to us? Sick a horse on us? They can't do anything to us. Out there in California.
I actually don't have any harsh criticisms.
I don't either.
Other
really.
than, there's a lot to talk about, but it's not harsh criticism.
Have we ever, well, I was about to say, have we ever harshly criticized anything? Anything but Makuga could be one of those things.
I made that joke one time, and this has stuck with me. Like, I regret saying it, even though it was supposed to be a joke. But I called the Jedi Council logo Microsoft Word clip art.
Oh, no.
And you had that exact reaction.
No.
And I just wanted someone to say something about that comment, and no one did. So, and it stuck with me. It's
I don't have a problem. What?
What?
I legitimately don't have a problem with any
I don't either.
Collider logos. Like, none.
I don't either.
Especially because we share the same font with many of them.
That's what I want to talk about. We'll get into the artwork and everything, because that's actually a huge topic.
Oh, Ryan Snelling can use Photoshop, so now he's a graphic design expert.
I am. I know a lot about art and things. So I just want to ask, what the hell is going on with comic book shopping? Last week, they gave us this flimsy, awesome-tacular rip. They're there. It's not even hosted by Schnepp. It's not a high-profile guest. It's just him and Jeremy Johns for 2 minutes talking about Hellboy. And this week, they don't even give us anything at all. And I can't decide which one I like better. Not getting anything at all versus just some kind of cheap little replacement over here. I want my comic book shopping episodes with Robert Meyer Burnett if you're not going to have a celebrity guest. Jay.
Yeah, I mean, I just like the fact that there's just additional content in general. They could have put
You're the positive one.
anything out in its place and I would have been fine. No, but in all seriousness, I feel like they had some comic book shopping episodes in the bank that we have not seen, but it is also a possibility that maybe we saw like the first season of comic book shopping, or maybe we saw, because the first season is always the shortest season.
Yeah, but there hasn't been any announcement or any explanation.
There's
like, this
literally
is what's going on.
Very little announcements or explanation for most of the things in Collider, so that wouldn't surprise me, unless you're doing a live showing of Back to the Future or Jurassic Park at the ArcLight.
It's also possible that they were just getting backed up, like, or maybe they
ran out. They ran out of
guests, and so they realized that they would just have to restock, like you said. They have to kind of put some of these episodes in a bank, and that's also possible, and that's fine. But yeah, that was just a huge WTF, and I actually regret not just having asked someone.
Can I suggest some
recording,
things?
But
I want to suggest something in between finding big guests. We love the big guests, of course. Why not go comic book shopping with some additional Collider people? They've already done it with Robert Meyer Burnett. You can go comic book shopping with Christian. That would be fun. With Mark, with Ken Knapsack. I mean, especially somebody like on the Jedi Council panel, because they talk about comic books on Jedi Council. Why not?
That was my idea for the Daily Jedi Council show.
We're talking about comic book shopping.
Yeah, I know, but it's the same idea. Okay, continue.
Great ideas come from smart people. What does that mean? Look,
actually makes a whole lot of sense.
It does. I miss comic book shopping, but it's okay. There's still there's a lot of changes going on at Collider. We say it all the time, but even more so. Let's talk about these thumbnails.
Oh, I'm not there yet.
Okay.
I was going to mention the additional
Spoiler,
content that
we're
we
going to talk about the thumbnails.
We are. Sunday, they had like an hour-long post-Emmy show. And not only was it great and the artwork looked great, so great job on everyone involved.
We did an Emmy show, and you did the Emmy show based on their show.
I did?
Yeah, didn't you?
Oh, because I didn't see the actual Emmys.
Exactly.
Yeah. You worded that weird. or without context. I had a DVR mishap and didn't get to see the Emmys, so I just watched their recap show. You're absolutely right.
That's how I took in all of this most recent Game of Thrones season.
So they put out that Emmy thing, and Roka hosted. Roka was fire. And Roka also hosted Movie Talk. I get my days mixed up. Was that this week or last week? But he was fire then, too. So much fire that I had to let him know because I just thought he was great. And it was one of those things like, why hasn't he been there longer and like full time? And because he just did such a great job and it was flawless. Because some people come in there and they have a hard time. They might stumble or maybe it's a little bit clunky when they just come in and host at the drop of a hat. But I don't know. He just did a great job. So I thought that was all well done. Okay.
I watched TV Talk. Speaking of that, I watched TV Talk this week, and it was funny because the few times that I sort of dipped into Movie Talk this week, I think it was Monday and Tuesday, I didn't see Perry on there, and I was like, where's Perry? I miss my Perry. And I saw her on TV Talk today. And then I was like, wait, how often is she on TV Talk? There's just all of these. She
comes on every now and then.
Well, I know. That's sort of my point. Is like there's so many changes. It sort of goes back to what we've talked about before. We were so used, at least me maybe, I was so used to the common rotation, and I would expect certain people on certain days, that now I feel like everybody's sort of sharing personalities, and you know, it keeps things interesting. It definitely keeps things interesting for sure. Obviously, you have the mainstays from time to time. Mark on Movie Talk, Josh McCouga on TV Talk, Grace on TV Talk, John Schnepp on Comic Book Shopping, but I feel like kind of like the fourth chair with Schmoes Know live show. It's just this always moving piece of the puzzle.
I was actually going to say that there's a lot less people that get to come in, and we talked about that before. How Heroes is pretty much just R&B and Amy Dallin now, and other than like Emma and Crossan, who comes on Jedi Council, there aren't a whole lot of outsiders that are coming in anymore. And some people might not even classify Emma as an outsider, but I'm basically, she is in the way that Amy Dallin is. That she's not officially there, but
right. I would love to see just the actual breakdown. I feel like I know exactly who is full time, but do they consider somebody like a David Griffin, somebody like an Emma Fife, do they consider them part-time, or are they just hired guns? Because Emma Fife has a rotation on the show. But then again, so did John Roca when he was doing Movie Talk.
Emma Fife, to my knowledge, isn't full-time, even though she does do extra Schmoedown work. Yep. But she also has just so much other stuff going. Too. She has a whole bunch of other stuff going on, though. So it's just hard for me to... I mean, maybe she is, but...
Is David Griffin on anything else? He's the one that pops up very frequently, and he's the one that makes me question it.
I think David Griffin's around more than Emma is.
That's what I'm saying.
At least it feels like that anyway.
He's the one that pops up that makes me think, is there a difference between a... First of all, do they have part-time people? Like, is that safe to say? A part-time Collider
Or is it always, like, contract work?
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah.
And if it is contract work, where do I submit my application? I looked today on the Complex Careers board for a job.
That's actually not a joke.
It's not a joke. It's 100% true.
Right.
There was only one position open in Los Angeles, and it had something to do with honor talent, but I don't think it had anything to do with Collider.
I have an idea.
What's that?
You listen. We both listen to the Ringer podcast.
We do listen to the Ringer podcast.
Okay. So
some might say that's how we got the idea for Sight and Sound.
Why doesn't someone like Mark Fernandez or anyone at Complex, because, you know, Mark Fernandez owns Complex.
Actually, no, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't. He's the Collider GM.
We know.
Why don't these guys, and I'll even include Christian on this. Like, if Christian wants to do some, like, side business thing, but even though he won't be running it, he could get in on managing it.
You're going to send me down into an semi-unplanned rabbit hole right here, but I'm fine with it. Go ahead.
why doesn't Complex or Collider get in this game to where they just own and operate a podcast network?
So, okay. I brought this up a few times now, and now I really do think it's because you and I, we sort of were examining it even more closely. Complex and especially Collider, and people are probably going to be like, well, Collider puts out podcast content. I'm aware.
I'm speaking outside of even what exists for the .com. There's two podcasts.
There is no reason to me that a Collider video style for podcasts could not exist in the entire Complex space. Other website properties, Grantland before The Ringer existed. I mean, there's just numerous other ones. Earwolf, Nerdist exists,
sure,
where they have an entire podcast community. It operates on a completely different economical spectrum in terms of how it makes money. It is bizarre to me that something like that does not exist for Collider and also for Complex. And I can already hear people saying, well, we already are inundated with so much Collider types of content, and that's fine.
I'm not talking about something for Collider video fans.
Exactly.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about an off thing. Like I said, it's like an off base, like Complex just owns and operates this podcast network. One day you look on your favorite podcasting app and see this brand new podcast network that you may never even realize is owned by Complex. I'm talking about something completely different.
Right.
And I just think that would be really, really interesting. And I think that it just makes a lot of sense. And I've toyed with this idea in general with Collider. And obviously it's hard for me to imagine that Collider can add anything else to their plate. But I've talked about how I've wanted more TV presence, and I've always bugged Christian about bringing back the TV recaps, even though there is no plan to do that. But having more of a TV presence on Collider to me is really important, even if it meant having a second operated studio.
Well, they have their foot so deeply entrenched in YouTube, and it goes. People may or may not realize it, but Collider obviously is one aspect. They have things like they have a large spectrum of hip-hop coverage that goes on, sneaker shopping, First We Feast, a food thing, even individual people. Anthony Fantano, I can't remember the name of the term, but he is essentially under the Collider Complex umbrella. Like, YouTube is their thing.
Yeah.
I just feel, especially for how economically feasible it is to run podcasts. It's so much cheaper. It's so much affordable. And I feel like the reach is so much more widespread. The last thing I do want to touch on, then I'll let you have your say here, is that I guarantee you right now there are people listening to this who are massive, massive Collider fans who, because this is continued to come up. I was a part of a conversation this week in Schmoeville about people discussing potential Collider fatigue. All I have to say about that is we've talked about that, but guys, you got to understand, not everybody, and in fact, a majority of people aren't taking in every single bit of content.
And that's something that I've talked about fatigue on this podcast since day one. I mean, and that's something that's just so back and forth. And the more that I think about it, I mean, there was a time when I talked about Collider fatigue when they put out half the content that they do today. Yeah. So in even me, I had to learn, like, maybe I just don't have to watch everything that comes out, and I've been totally fine with it. Like, we talked about it before. I was such a huge champion for TV Talk going daily, but I don't watch it every day.
Well, think about, I mean, just for example, think about all the cross-pollination that can exist, all of the Collider personalities that can exist in an additional podcast platform put on by Complex. In fact, and I will just throw it out there, The Ringer did that podcast where they rewatched the entire series of Game of Thrones. What was that called? Binge Mode?
Yeah.
that podcast was massive. It was #1 on the TV and movies podcasting charts the entire time that it was going on.
There's something about like
that could have easily been a Complex or Collider property. That could have easily been John Roca Kidnap Sock.
Yeah, but again, that would feel like, even though it could be hosted by those same people, it doesn't have to feel like
it could have just have easily been those people.
And that goes back to something we've talked about here too, is that Collider, I would like to see Collider Video kind of strengthen their podcast game, because Jedi Council can be its own podcast.
Right.
I mean, Heroes can be its own podcast. I mean, there's no reason why. You just make a network account on Podbean, and so I don't know that that's where they host, but I know that they're on there. So anyway, there's that idea.
I'm just hoping we get like a message in the works from somebody, like a Christian.
Let me know when to apply to
a Mark Fernandez
complex.com.
in the works. Yeah, exactly.
So we talked about it a second ago. Several months ago, almost a year ago, when we just started creating content together on the internet, and we came up with our design, and I made the joke like, "Hey, we have a green logo too." And then the particular font that we started out using was the same font that Collider was using, and we had a good laugh. And you were like, "Yeah, well, I mean, it is a pretty common font." And so I've seen it everywhere. It's the Dunkirk font. Like, it's literally everywhere, whatever that font is. And so it's funny that like a month or so ago, you changed the font that we were using, and then they changed their font, and it ended up again being the exact same one, which I find hilarious. Back in the days when they put the title of the video in the thumbnail, and I'm saying back in the day, but I mean just last week.
Yeah.
So it's just been interesting to sort of watch them change just via thumbnail. Because here we are again talking about another change. They're much more simple here.
Big fan of that.
And I know you like your simple. Yes, you do.
I'm a minimalist.
How do you feel about the changes over there?
I'm looking at them right now. I like the fact that, so I can't speak for anybody, but I'm looking at it now, and I'm looked at what they had before, and I think about how we do our channel as well. Anytime you have recurring shows like this, you want to have some sort of identifier, something that that you don't always necessarily read, but your brain identifies as whatever it is. It seems like they're putting all of these logos in the bottom left-hand corner, which I like. It sort of, your eye pays attention to what the shape of it is.
It also is away from where YouTube puts the duration of the video, which is in the bottom right corner, so you don't have any sort of disruption there.
Yeah, and everything is much more centric on one particular image, which means that you have to be much more choosy of what image you decide to put in the thumbnail.
Right.
I appreciate it. I think it looks great. Me personally, this is just my take. I do enjoy the titles or some sort of additional verbiage in the thumbnail to tell me what it's about, because your mind is doing two things at once, deciding what it is, it's really three things: what it is, what the image is, and then reading the title, what it's about, as opposed to it all being in the same place.
Right.
So this is if I legitimately gone back to college and gone through an entire critique of somebody's design work.
What I'm looking at
Anybody can feel free to just tell us what you think about our thumbnails.
We have the Collider Video page up on my TV right now. So what I wanted to ask you is how do you feel about the fact that it's the same design no matter what type of video it is? Even with, not only with the daily shows, but this idea goes for the movie reviews and the trailer reactions as well. I'm wondering if you thought that maybe those felt too similar, because those are the videos, the movie reviews and trailer reactions. Those go against what you were talking about. Whereas having the identifier for the daily show.
Yeah, here's what I will say about that. I actually am a fan. So, at least to my knowledge, from what I can tell, the Schmoes Know thumbnails also changed slightly a little bit, and I'm a bigger fan of the Schmoes Know because I don't know why.
They write the title.
Exactly. I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
If I had to guess and there's really no way to really confirm this. I feel like this design is more for the existing user as opposed to a brand new listener. Like, it's not a thumbnail that's going to make, that the thumbnail itself is going to
They're not
entice going viral.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are all just personal opinions, obviously.
But the Schmoes Know movie reviews specifically.
Those are more like a Sight and Sound thumbnail, 100%. They are including Mark and Christian or whoever is in.
Well, they always did. But it's just the way that the image is balanced. There's no lower third anymore, and
which I'm a big fan of. And that's the other thing too. I don't think we were ever critical of the previous design like it was bad. It was just, I think it all needed a breath of fresh air.
I thought that for as big as Schmoes Know was, I felt like that it looked too amateur in a way. It looked like their designs haven't been touched.
Well, I was speaking more towards Collider, but I agree with what you're saying about Schmoes
Know. Like, even though it might not be the focus anymore, Schmoes Know still the first.
Right.
One of the originators, and it just kind of felt like, and I would say the same thing, and just to make it sound like I'm not being too harsh on Schmoes Know, I would say the exact same thing about Jeremy Johns. Jeremy Johns is the biggest movie YouTuber on the planet, and yet his artwork, thumbnails, don't at all display that.
Yes,
even like his video graphics and stuff.
But
like his
from
intro
time to time,
that
plays into the brand, right? I mean, sort of. Like,
maybe.
I always, before Jeremy Johns was even on, before I was even really involved in this space.
That's just my critique, that specifically him, it doesn't feel like that, though.
For sure. And before I was even involved in the space, Jeremy Johns used to annoy me because I would see his thumbnails, and I'm like, I don't want to watch a review from a guy wearing a sports coat. That used to be my literal take. And then once I became more familiar with him,
right.
I was a Stuckman guy. I was a Schmoes Know guy. And now, yeah.
What else did we have to talk about? Oh, let's talk about the fact that I want to pat Mark and Christian on the back because they are killing it.
They would enjoy that.
Doing movie reviews together again.
I don't think they want you to touch them, though. So
that's true.
You don't pet them on the back.
That's right. Well, I tried to put my hand on Ellis's shoulder, and he threw it away. No, I want to give them huge kudos for all the movie reviews that they've been putting out, and the fact that they're doing them together again is great. But there's a standout.
Yeah.
What we saw yesterday with their Ninjago movie review, this new set, not only did they sit in front of a new set for them, but they were using, I assume, one of the C100 cameras to film it as well, because even the camera and the lighting looked way better than everything that they've done since. Like, and we know that they kind of moved away from getting out of the corner of the room. They were trying to do it on the Schmoes set.
I actually enjoyed. So my favorite, before this one, my favorite Schmoes Know review set was the one with the Guardians of the Galaxy poster in the background. I enjoyed that a lot. The full frame
that was just their office.
Full frame was filled with both of them and all kinds of stuff in the background. I do not care for movie reviews at the Schmoes Know desk. I don't care for them. I don't like this. Again, this is people are like, you guys are thinking too hard about this. I don't like the angle.
It's what we do.
I don't like the angle that it's shot at. It just feels, they feel too far apart. It's just not what I know and love. The older reviews, even back in the day before I got involved with this,
Christian's bathroom.
Anytime I would watch a Schmoes Know review, they were just sitting literally shoulder to shoulder. That's Schmoes Know to me. Also, when they're at the desk, I feel like they don't get as mad at each other, but sometimes I literally think that they're going to smack each other.
I love it.
I do too. It's what makes a Schmoes Know review.
Definitely. How about this set, though? Didn't it just look incredible?
It looked a lot better. I thought I was watching like some sort of like, I don't know, Nerdist Talk the Thrones thing from a Lost set. It looked like Lost.
Yes, it goes back to what the point that I just made.
Was that a surfboard behind him?
It finally feels like what I picture Schmoes Know being in my head, like how big they are and what they should look like and how they should appear. This was on par with exactly what I'm talking about, and I hate to say that I was shocked, but like there are plenty of people who are not thinking anything of this. Oh, new set, it looks good, blah blah blah. But it's like, I kind of think it says a whole hell of a lot, because we talked about how Schmoes Know is on the back burner and they aren't really worried about this as much as they are with Collider anymore. But this shows that they're still giving it some thought. And with this and the thumbnail edition, like they want to improve as well, even though it still might not be as big of a focus. It certainly means they're still in the game.
Are we coming to the close of the Collider discussion right now?
Yes.
Because I have a question that we may have to answer later. I like the new set, but I think the bigger question is the new set in a new building?
Was that in a new building? No.
Can you confirm?
It's the same. The concrete wall that's behind them is the same concrete wall that is in Collider news videos.
So there's some of the buildings with concrete walls in them?
No.
Okay. Fair enough.
Not in Burbank.
Yeah,
they're all
what idiot would think that they would go to a new building just to film something?
Yeah. So anyway, another thing I want to talk about before we get into the live show, actually before we get to the history lesson, is how fucking pumped I got seeing Christian win that belt. I love that moment. I've had so much fun with the Schmoedown recently. Oh, while we're on the topic, that's the one thing that I don't care for, transitioning into the thumbnails. The original Schmoedown thumbnails are way better than what they put up for the 5-way that they just released.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of need to see how they're going to go moving forward. But
anyway, I have had just so much fun with the Schmoedown recently, and I wanted to make sure that we acknowledge that, just because we don't talk about it as much. But just having a whole lot of fun with the matches, and it was really great seeing Christian win that.
I mean, the match itself was kind of hilarious just because it was not at all... First of all, it's not at all what you would expect from a title match like that. It was very low scoring, almost humorously low scoring, but it was still gripping, I think, to watch it and experience it. The only thing I want to say, and we're not the Schmoedown rundown, so we don't get to talk about this.
We are after Schmoedown, whatever Roca calls us.
That's right. I was interested in what people were saying about this match, so I actually went to the Schmoedown rundown comment section. I was sort of reading through this. I just want to address something. Okay. Listen,
I have no idea where you're going.
I know, and that's fine. Listen, this whole thing about Christian having the belt and being the commissioner, it is so
fucking stupid.
It's so fine. Like, I saw some trash can in the comment section was like, well, obviously, Harlock, this is so bad for the Schmoedown. Fuck off. It's fine. You think he wasn't thinking that going into this? Like, some people are going to be like, but has nothing to do with that. He will go on record for sure saying that him winning that belt was probably going to raise some eyebrows for silly people. But it is what it is now. He's the champion.
It goes back to the fact that so many Schmoedown fans just fucking take it so damn seriously, and I am not questioning their passion for it. I have no problem.
Right, that statement is a good thing.
Yes.
But there's a level.
I am not at all criticizing anyone's passion for the Schmoedown, their anticipations for these matches, getting into the sport of it, because it's there.
Yeah,
but it's just the mad. People that it's the same type of person that gets on there and just like trash talks Roca because he appears as the heel in this league, and it's like there's just no separation. Like,
how do you think those people feel when Roca appears side by side with somebody? Perfect example, Roca and Riley did the review for Mother.
Yes.
If those people who take it so seriously,
why are they doing this together?
Why are they friends?
They're supposed to be rivals.
My God. And last thing I'm just going to say about this, the guy that started this whole thing who has literally gotten it to the point. Every point that the Schmoedown exists is perennially the best point that it's ever been. You don't think, even if it was for some strange reason, something that was made to be, it was orchestrated that Christian were to have this belt. Do you think he wouldn't know exactly what he was doing? It's fine.
I know.
It's still going to be great.
And that's the other thing, too, is that people aren't just taking a second to realize that if they are this passionate about the Schmoedown, I assume that they're passionate about all the storylines because that's what they're concerned with. Why doesn't this make for a brilliant, intriguing storyline?
Yeah.
This happened in the WWE with Vince McMahon. It's the same thing. I'm not saying he did it on purpose because Christian didn't do it on purpose. He just went into a match and happened to win it.
Yeah,
but
you think Eric Bischoff didn't know that NWO was going to come in?
It's not a legitimate thing to be concerned about. Like, Christian isn't going to let those two things disrupt each other, but it's also just fun to see. Like, it's not something to bitch and complain about.
Yeah,
it's awesome, and can only make the Schmoedown that much more intriguing. Because right now with the Schmoedown, I don't know what's going on with the Lion's Den. The Four Horsemen. That's not even a thing anymore. Like, the Schmoedown needs something else inside of it that's going on. Like, even like the stuff with Ricky and whatever the hell he's doing. I mean, I know that people were excited about that for a while, but I haven't even really seen any evidence of that. And maybe that's because of the Ultimate Schmoedown. But I don't know. Like, it's good. It's a great storyline. It's interesting, but you're taking it too serious if you think they will actually disrupt each other.
It's just a continue. I mean, I just think that one statement should be the thing that is put up on the wall. The Schmoedown has just, all it has done is been fire and gotten better. Why wouldn't you put your trust in the person that has legitimately ushered it forward and say that whatever is going on, whatever it is, you can go to bed at night knowing that it's still in good hands. Even if Christian were to step away and he's planning on it, and put that responsibility on somebody else's shoulders, even that decision is made by the smartest person that could possibly make that decision.
It's also just kind of inexcusable for someone to think this, because Christian already, like a month or so ago, talked about how he had to step away.
Right.
And obviously we know now it was because he knew that he'd be champion, because this was pre-taped.
Well,
so
I'm more or less, I mean, I know it's pre-taped, but I more or less also just thought that the whole having a baby thing was going to have to do with it as well.
That too. And so that obviously worked out, but it's like, we already knew, and people were already anticipating his replacement.
Yeah.
So much, in fact, that the post-match thing between Christian and Riley, when they were picking names out of a hat, people thought they were doing that for the commissioner. But it ultimately ended, we saw it unfold, it was actually picking names out of a hat for the five-way qualifier. But people were already anticipating this change. So, again, ultimately, it doesn't conflict.
Right.
It's just stupid.
And that's it for After Schmoedown.
After Schmoedown. Let's get into the history lesson, and we'll take a break, and then we'll get into the Schmoes Know live show. What do you have for us today?
The old history lesson here. This one is an interesting one, because if you want the full effect of it, I would recommend that you go back and actually listen to the episode prior to. So, first of all, my question to you is, how do you feel about episodes when Mark and Christian both are just not there? Are you anticipating just an anything can happen situation, or do you already sort of have a negative connotation to it?
I don't know. You have me worried, Jay. You never know.
So this episode is from July 25th, 2013. Mark and Christian come on the show, and the first thing that they address is the previous week, because they were not in studio at Toad Hop, and Riley, JTE, but more importantly, Josh McCouga was hosting and carried the reins, and they did essentially the first ever version of After Schmoe, where they go back and review how they thought the show was. Let's listen to.
Wait, wait.
You have something to say?
No. Let's listen.
Okay, let's listen.
Let's talk real quick about what happened last week.
What? Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
What
did happen last week?
Guys, I just said what happened last week, and he screams and yells.
Makuga got a little defensive.
Wow,
Now,
that
let's recap it for
girlfriend that was
everyone.
banging the plumber or something.
So you got me and Christian Harloff. We were both out.
Yeah.
And then Tiffany Smith was also in San Diego. Ken Knapstock, our producer, who kind of holds the show together more often than not, was also in San Diego eating a Subway sandwich on a hotel room floor. So he was not around to produce. So we had Josh Makuga run it, and Mark Riley, and Josh the intern.
And Finstock came in.
And Finstock.
And so look, so I was gonna go ahead and give my thoughts, but before I do that, I think we should figure out from everybody like how it went. Makuga, how'd you feel that it went?
I loved it. I thought we had a great time. Maybe didn't talk enough about Comic-Con. Maybe the last half hour got a little rowdy when Finstock stepped in the room. But I thought we did a great job. The fans seemed to really like it. I really enjoyed answering the phone.
All right,
Are you listening to this?
I'm listening. Let's get everyone's thoughts. JTI, get your mug in there. Let's see how the J to the T to the I. It was a very good co-host. You said about 6 words. You said as much as Ryan Gosling did, and only God forgives.
Stop.
So,
I haven't seen that yet.
Oh, okay.
I thought it went great. I thought the beginning was very good Comic-Con. Towards the second half, I think we trailed off a little bit. I would like to talk a little bit more about Avengers, maybe a little bit more about Days.
Did you get bullied a little bit?
Oh, Makuga's a tough guy to handle sometimes.
Whoa! Wow! Hold on, Riley. Let's get Riley.
Threw
on
him
there.
right under the bus.
Yeah, Riley, take Tiffany's mic for a second. Riley, how are you feeling about it?
I thought we could have done a lot better.
Wow! Makuga getting wrecked. What happened? So
I just felt like we missed a lot of topics that especially Comic-Con.
Wow.
I think it kind of skewed a little too much television because it was Comic-Con weekend.
Who does the TV segment around here?
It looks like Makuga's eyes are starting to well up.
He's hitting the throne on the bus.
This feels a lot like a betrayal.
I'm going to defend you right now, and I'm going to tell you why. Because when we asked Josh how the podcast went, I felt like a parent asking my child, "Hey, what did you do this weekend? Because me and your mom left town. Did you have a party?" And Josh said, "Well, we had a couple friends over. It got a little rowdy." And then Eddie Haskell, the neighbor, is throwing him under the bus right now.
Let me just.
Hey, Eddie Haskell was always honest.
Yeah, that's true. Well, let me just say this. Now I've pranked you twice in one day.
Oh, you fucking asshole!
I love pranking Josh Makuga twice in the same day.
It was awesome.
Everyone had a good show, and you did a really good job. You held the fort down. But that just
Thanks, fellas. I love you.
Before you get into a Twitter war, know that I'm going to get you twice in one day. All right. So anyway, let's get into this. Let's talk about Comic-Con.
There's a couple things I want to unpack after that clip.
Let's do it.
For one, Josh Makuga hosted the show that became a version of After Schmoe. Am I reading that correctly?
He hosted a show. No, he hosted the Schmoes Know show.
Yes, I know. But
and then
spent that time,
and then Mark and Christian came on the next week and reviewed him doing it like we do on After Schmoe.
Okay, that's right. Thank you for clearing that up, because I thought we had just arrived at a place where there was an episode of the Schmoes Know show where Makuga critiqued things that Christian and Ellis were doing, and I was about to rip his tits.
Rip his tits. Okay. Well, yeah, that's not what happened. But what we got...
Okay, very good.
What we got was hilarity because... So, just to examine that clip in general, Mark and Christian, not only did they bring up the fact that maybe it wasn't the greatest show, but then they started to get other people's opinions on it.
Yes.
Including other people that were on the show. And Riley, like a tattletale, who just was like, hey, it was all Josh. He did it. Was just like, I thought Josh talked way too much about television. We didn't stay on topic enough. But then when it all came around to it, it ended up being a hilarious prank and joke.
I love that. I love the fact that the critique was that just the show wasn't loose enough in general, really. But I think ultimately, if we had experienced this live, we would have been thankful for that episode because, from what I understand, they did that in place of talking about their Comic-Con experience, because it was right after that.
No, it was during Comic-Con. The episode before was during Comic-Con. It was before, like, you know, the show had to go on.
Yeah.
And it was at Toad Hop, so people had to stay behind.
Right.
And what ended up happening is they were supposed to be covering all of this breaking Comic-Con news, and what had ended up happening was Josh just didn't talk about that really as much. It was actually, it ended up going off the rails in the second half. Finstock randomly showed up and all this other stuff, and I think they had a hard time keeping it together. We all know that we love shows like that. We love shows that just completely go off the hinges, but I think it was hilarious because Christian and Mark were just so critical, mainly of Makuga. And Mark even had that point where he thought he saw Makuga's eyes welling up a little bit.
Well, that's the thing about Riley, though, is like whatever Riley says, you just believe. Like,
right.
That's how I would take it.
Kind of a straight shooter. Yeah.
I remember when Riley, like one of the only times Riley has ever been outspoken about After Schmoe. I remember that was one of the times where I was like, does he mean it? Like, because
Right.
it felt so. It just everything that he says obviously just feels so true. And there's not a whole lot about him. I know he's like has fun with the Schmoedown and everything like that, but there's not a whole lot about him that feels produced in that way. So like anything he says just goes for me. I think he's a pretty straight shooter. So I wouldn't be able to blame Makuga if he started crying at that.
I agree. I'm a big Riley fan. Give him some more screen time, guys. Come on.
Jaye Williams, go on and get your notes out because it's time to talk about the Schmoes Know live show, number 301.
That's right. It is. It's that time to get into the Schmoes Know live show, stream of consciousness notes brought to you by sightsoundpod.com. The show is 3 minutes late. No Christian, sad face. Damn, everyone listened to After Schmoe? So much pressure now.
Conspiracy.
I love the implementation of Ace and RB3 for this impromptu segment. Go around, go around. I laughed so hard at Raccoon saying Captain Phillips lines. Oh, hey, Makuga, I like Yacht Rock too. Schmoe's YouTube history is a brilliant segment. Excuse me. Christian is cackling. Who is this guy? What a good-looking fellow. At one point, everyone was just screaming over everyone else, and it just made me laugh. This guy has nice teeth. Did Christian just disappear unannounced? And why am I just now realizing it? You literally could not have insulted Josh Makuga in a worse way than talking about how not great Pittsburgh is. What a nice Jerry Rice story. He sent my best friend a signed letter. Who was Max? Oh, that guy. Where's Brett? What is this, Sight and Sound talking about the pop culture crown? Emma is wearing Perry pants. Shout out Noah Hawley. Kayla became a vegetarian because of Okja. And that is your Schmoes Know live show, stream of consciousness notes, brought to you by sightsoundpod.com.
There is so much to unpack.
You want to talk about my girlfriend becoming a vegetarian because of the movie Okja?
There's so much to unpack aside from that.
Oh, okay.
Aside from that point. Thank you. No, okay. So at the main table, we had Ken, Joel, Ellis, and Makuga. Makuga, when everyone mentioned that they listened to After Schmoe, Makuga stayed silent.
Right.
During that.
Of course he did.
But I call BS. Or should I? Look, maybe they knew, like, hey, this episode of After Schmoe, they're probably going to talk really good about us. Like, did they all tune in to see what we would say if we had those extended moments where we talked about how much Schmoes Know meant to us? Maybe is that why everyone tuned in?
I think more than anything, they were probably just thinking about how great of a episode it was, sort of reliving old memories vicariously through our show. But it also could have just as well been that, like, hey, let's just hear people talk really good about us. It could have been either of those things. You know, I'm trying to run around the horn here about who all confirmed they listen. I believe it was Mark, Joel, Ace, Ken, Copster, I believe I heard.
I think Copster threw that out, yeah.
Say in the background. I don't know who else did it.
I think that's it.
I think maybe Cody might have, but we would have never known. Maybe Max.
And Jeff Dye, he listened to
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You know, I'm glad everybody listened to After Schmoe, but
me too.
I was actually disappointed. I don't know if we're ever going to get Joel's stream of consciousness notes on After Schmoe.
We're
This
not.
is like the second week in a row that we haven't actually gotten them fully fleshed out.
Both times they have been interrupted by the million other things that go on in the episode.
Actually, it was really one thing. Both times they were interrupted by Christian telling an absurd story about animals.
That's true, by the same thing. And it's weird because he's the one that has to bring it up. Because he called in, let's face it.
Specifically.
He only called in just to bring up After Schmoe. I thought that was so weird. That was the first thing out of the gate. Like, well, I mean, I'm very appreciative, but...
Well,
like,
this was a...
Let's get started with...
I mean, I'm sure we're going to get into it, but this was a very, very odd episode.
It was.
Not because...
It was.
Not in like a negative way. Most, at least currently, at least since we've been involved with the show, most shows start off with this very loose, not really housekeeping, but this very loose moment where everybody is sort of just hanging out, right? Just talking shit, doing whatever. That essentially was not... It was in the episode, but it might as well have not been in the episode. They pretty much got straight to business from the get-go.
Right. One of the smaller points that I'll make is that yesterday was actually a pretty exciting day for trailers, and there wasn't a whole lot of, well, actually there was no discussion on any of that kind of stuff.
I like that.
We did, have one topical discussion about Mother and original movies and all that jazz, but that's just a smaller observation that they didn't address any of the Tomb Raider, the Jumanji, the Punisher. They didn't talk about any of that on the show. The other sort of more interesting idea that I came up with last night, and I texted you about it, in the first hour of the show, I texted you that I felt like that they've already done an entire show because there was just so much going on that entire time that it went by super fast, yes, but it felt like that they had pretty much accomplished everything that a regular show would accomplish. It was just a weird thing that I thought about that I never, ever thought about before.
Yeah, I have 2 points to that. One, first of all, I feel like they really are finding their groove here. This has happened quite frequently in the last couple of months, and it's not like they haven't ever done this, but so discussing the movie news and having a bunch of smaller topics to me come up to sort of drive conversation, maybe throw in a game, sort of sounds like the Schmoes Know version of movie talk when they do that.
Yeah.
Whereas this feels so specific to Schmoes Know.
Yes.
One big topic. When are you ever going to hear something like this where you have this one big topic and you're getting all of these people's take? Like, that to me, at least to my knowledge, is very, very original to the Schmoes Know live show. And I love hearing about it. I don't take a lot of notes during it because my notes mainly specifically cover absurd moments on the show.
Yeah.
This is just raw entertainment, and I love it. The other part that I will say is that how do you feel? I'll pose it with a question. How do you feel about the show not going to break until an hour in? That is something that is a little bit different because they were doing 30 minutes for a while.
It was, I think they had designed it like a sandwich, essentially.
Yeah.
It was break 30 minutes in the hour until the next break. I think that might have been why it felt like a whole show had gone by, just because we had seen such a long duration without a break. But again, they already accomplished, talking on the phone with Christian and the guest interview, and so they had already done quite a bit in that first hour. But anyway, I don't think I care.
Right.
I don't even really have an opinion on that either way because that wasn't like glaringly obvious that happened. I think I was more weirded out that it took an hour before we even got into the giveaways. I think that's something that stood out. It's like, oh yeah, we haven't done giveaways yet, because that's usually the very first thing.
Well, they used this a few times. They used a few moments to sort of serve as faux breaks. Like they used SeatGeek video that Riley did. They used that as a transition to bring on their guest,
right?
Which was interesting to me, to say the least. I don't know or think they can do that every single time. I also wonder, those videos that were inserted into the middle of the show, how does that translate to the iTunes listener? Like, for example, the ones that Emma and John Roca did for the Wonder Woman thing, I don't think you could have gotten any gist of what was going on if you were listening to this on iTunes.
Right.
Or whatever your podcast app may be.
I actually don't care for that idea in general.
Yeah.
I don't like to go away to a clip when I've got all those people there. I think there was a time, I can't remember what movie it was for. It was something that Ellis and McCouga did. It was some sort of like gun range training or some kind. I forgot what movie it was for, but they showed a few of those clips at the very end of the Schmoes Know live show, so they didn't use it
kind of like they did with Joel.
Right. They didn't use it to interrupt. But that's the thing. The one with Joel, they had like 4 of these last night.
Right.
Or 3 or 4 of them. Because then there was one with, that's right, Emma and Roca and Joel and,
Riley.
So I just felt like that's excessive.
Well, it's kind of the same thing they were doing, I guess, with, the Stardust stuff to a certain extent. But they'll do this from time to time on Collider, too. I remember there was one Heroes episode I was listening to that I literally had to go and watch later because they decided to show Robert Meyer Burnett's Hot Toys collection, and I was listening to it in podcast form. I was like, this is doing nothing for me.
It's a good point.
I need to go and, you got to start up that podcast channel. Don't use it as an afterthought. Don't use the podcast feed as an afterthought.
Yeah, I agree. And we talked about that a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
How they were like, hey, let's we got to think about the podcast listeners.
Yeah,
and then they did like a million things that were only
you got to listen to Christian and Brett. You got to be more toad hoppy.
That's right.
Hopping with the toads.
That's a good point. I think I was more okay with the Stardust thing, I think. Even though it's funny because Stardust was a very frequent thing.
Right.
They did that sometimes 2 or 3 times in an episode.
I guess their deal maybe ran out. Haven't seen Stardust thing in forever.
It probably only lasted a couple months. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't. I mean, did you really have an interest in that guy's interview at the gun range with Joel? Like,
fine.
I would rather just have more time with Joel on the actual show.
I mean, I like that they do those things. I mean, seems to me like a perfect thing to put on an SK Plus or
a separate video in general.
Absolutely.
Which we don't know that they aren't going to do that because there's still time. They could put that up.
Well, I mean, they did that with the Roca Rock interview, or was that on Collider? I can't remember.
That would have been on Collider.
Yeah, but regardless, you know what I mean.
Yeah. Very fascinating. But let's talk about the 2 things that came up during the cutoff. Joel, After Schmoe, whatever they're calling that segment. The first being that the LaCroix was actually a plant for us to an Easter egg, if you will.
The decoy LaCroix.
Yeah.
Is that confirmed? Is that real?
I thought she said that last night.
She did, but I didn't really comprehend it. I'm not comprehending it until you're saying it just now.
Was
that a nod to you and I?
And
the listeners?
I have to think so.
I would hope so.
I thought Christian acknowledged that on the phone as well, that it was a nod to us.
I don't remember. My dogs might have been going crazy.
Okay, very good. And then the second thing, which I don't know, it probably wasn't even supposed to be on the air at all, and I think Joelle is horrible at telling secret or whispering. It's not a strength of hers, but they accidentally brought up the fact that they're moving.
Yeah,
they're moving studios.
So two things happen here. Okay, one, them admitting that they listened to After Schmoe, and this whole revelation forced me to go back and re-listen to last week's episode. I re-listened to it today, and man, like, hey, I feel great right now.
Yeah,
I love it that we
feel good.
Caught this. I feel like nobody was talking about it. I went back to the to the Schmoeville Facebook page and went through the chat. Nobody said a word about this.
Right.
I'm like, guys, this is a big fucking deal. I'm going to announce it right now. Unless this is our thing, our speculation of the week thing we're talking about. It's not even speculation anymore. Collider is moving to Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
Well, let me take that back. Schmoes Know 100% is moving to Beverly Hills. And I texted you, surely it has to mean Collider is moving as well. It has to. I cannot fathom how it would work without Collider and Schmoes Know being there at the same time.
They're together, no matter what. So I think that, again, we debated before the show where we're going to actually address this during the Collider portion or Schmoes Know portion, because it's a package deal. I think that probably what happened is that the direction that they see Collider and Schmoes Know going right now, I think it just requires a bigger space, or maybe it's like two setups, because right now they have two studios, they have two sets, but they have one production table, and they have to break down or tear down and build it back up depending on what show they're shooting, and probably some of the stuff with technically the Schmoedown could probably be improved.
Well, it's incredibly exciting because I mean, first of all, for those that don't know, we've talked about it a little bit, but Complex in general was using the Collider video space to shoot other things from time to time.
Yeah.
It's so exciting just because we don't know what it means. Like, in my mind, okay, this has to do with Mark Fernandez moving to LA and being like, what the fuck is this place? We've got to get out of here. Burbank? You're in Burbank? The only thing you have to show for it is I do not eat at Chili's. Mark Fernandez does not eat at Chili's. 100%. I'm putting that together, and I'm also putting the private jet together. And in my mind, the new Collider facilities is fucking great.
Yeah.
Not only do they have new sets, I'm seeing every show has a new set.
It's possible, yeah.
It's very possible. Like
100%.
And in fact, in the corner, off to the side, is an office with our names on it. It also says Complex Podcast Studios. It exists. There's a bed for Cal, the Schmoe dog.
And me.
Will dogs be allowed? That's a big question for a Collider.
So, look, this is fascinating. For one, if Screen Junkies can do this, Collider can do this.
Yeah. Could be a home for just complex video in general.
We don't talk a whole lot about this, but Collider video is winning. That's all I'll say. The Schmoedown.
I have no take.
The Schmoedown.
Yeah.
Gets bigger with every match. Screen Junkies Plus went away and was buried. I saw a video where Spencer Gilbert.
It's just your speculation of the week? To see if we're going to get
It's not a speculation.
Okay.
To see if I get dinged. You need to die. Yeah.
You're going to have to come home from work tomorrow.
This is it.
And edit the video. Okay.
Spencer Gilbert over at Screen Junkies put up a video where he just shot by shot reenacted the Daredevil Elektra fight scene on the seesaw in the Ben Affleck movie.
Yeah.
I looked at that video and knew right then and there that Collider video was winning.
Okay.
So they're moving out to Beverly Hills. I think that this means a bigger and better facility. Again, I think technically some of these shows are going to improve. I think you could see different sets. Hopefully they maintain some of that. Hopefully they're thinking about Schmoes Know as well, so we can continue that type of review that we like so much.
Most of the people that work there are involved in the show, so it's fine.
That's true. I'm just so excited. I mean, it was one thing to get excited when Fernandez bought them all new equipment last year,
right,
with the C100s and all that stuff, but this is next level. And
absolutely,
there haven't been a whole lot of changes set wise since I started watching this 2 years ago. So I cannot wait to see the next chapter.
It took them forever just to fill that wooden wall with pictures, and now they're already moving. It's kind of hilarious to think about.
Definitely. So anyway, moving on. We talked a little bit about Christians. We talked about the animals attacking each other again. You know what that reminded me of?
What's that? Our late nights?
I worded that very weird.
Watching animal videos?
Hold on. I worded that weird. I described the videos that Christian was watching as opposed to just his story about the possums. So I got my words mixed up. But I've kind of already spoiled it. Him watching those videos of animals fighting each other, you know what that reminded me of?
What's that?
You. In your face when you just watched car crashes on YouTube.
I don't know why I did that. Can I just say this?
Apparently it's a very valid thing to do.
First of all, we also do something similar. I've not gone on your history, but sometimes I have looked up videos on YouTube and realized I was on the Sight and Sound one and been like, damn it. But, wait. So first of all, I have not laughed this hard at something Schmoes Know related in forever, and a part of that is because it just literally came out of nothing.
Yeah.
But the one that made me laugh the most was, what do bees do when they lose their queen? And was that what Christian was researching as a result of him leaving the Schmoedown?
But neither of them confirmed it. Christian and Mark both said that wasn't them, right?
Yeah.
So who else with the account? We're down to like Copster and RB3.
I don't know.
Maybe it's Copster.
I literally don't know. Maybe
It
Cal.
might be Copster. Okay.
It's Perry.
All right. So anyway, yes, I was laughing my ass off at this entire thing. And
We're literally sitting in the dark.
Huge
happening
credit
right
to Ellis for coming up with that segment on the fly. For some reason, you have a problem with us sharing a YouTube account, so I love the validation that we're not weird because they do the exact same thing.
I just don't know why you don't have your own.
I do have my own.
That's not ours.
Because I don't need one.
Okay.
There's no point.
It's funny. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Move on.
We got a preview, even though it was announced earlier this week. We got a quick preview of RB3 and Ace and what they're going to look like doing something together. So they're coming out with the podcast, the meaning of.
That's right. Coworkers.
And this is something that we've been talking about.
You better make sure you put out an episode every week or we're going to be on your ass.
Well, we've talked about, like, what does it mean to be a wanger? Like, who's involved? And why are these guys left out of the wanger show? And this addresses that. And I think Copster and Beardo should be afraid. Because Ace and RB3 are going to drop bombs on this podcast. We have seen Ace flourish on the live show recently with his takes, with his indie picks. RB3 will flourish for the very first time. This will be the first time that he is on created content for Schmoes Know, like officially.
Right.
I can't wait to see what we get out of these two.
How likely do you think it would have been that there would have been a third chair on this podcast and it would have been taken up by Chris Hartwell?
Not likely.
Okay, well, how great would it have been?
It would have been amazing.
Right. These three individuals, these three scholars.
It would have been incredible. Was that your question?
I mean,
how great would it have been, or how likely?
I mean, likely, but also I would have appreciated your take, been like, oh, well, I don't know, but it would have been amazing.
It would have been great. I miss Chris. I miss him. Maybe I'll shoot him a text after this. So, yeah. I'm just really pumped for their show. I love the bit that Ellis was killing it with the segments. Ellis on the fly came up with that the morning show thing and then the history. Shout out to Ellis.
That was a new set
made for an entertaining show. That's right. It revitalized the Schmoes and And Christian had the courtesy to actually call in.
I like that
instead of just being totally absent from the show.
I really, really like that, and in fact, I kind of expect it from here on out. At least call it on your way home.
So
that was my favorite part. In the middle of him calling, he's just go around. That made me laugh so hard.
That was great. Ellis was quick with that New Yorker and traffic line, by the way.
Right.
Speaking of creating segments, I texted you an idea that I have for a segment that we can do on this very show. I think that I'm going to, I'll always have my phone beside me because I take notes, but I'm going to start timing the duration between every sentence Ken Knapsack says on the show.
Oh, yeah?
Because I think...
Did you mention this to me? Because this is the first time hearing this.
I texted you this last night, actually, and I'm pretty sure you responded.
Oh, okay.
So...
CT.
If I had done this last night, and I guess I could have gone back and done it, but I was lazy. If I had done this last night, and I'm not including the time where Ken actually just left the show, because he ended up just leaving the show. I'm talking about when he was actually on set there at the table. We might have gone 45 minutes without him saying a word.
Yeah. I have a theory about Ken, and I think it has to do with partaking the knapsack files from time to time. He does not like change. He just moved, and he said that caused him a great deal of stress. Well, they're moving offices. I feel like that might just, I don't know, one after the other. Just lay off Ken, okay?
Who, me?
Just take it easy. Yeah.
Is that a harsh, critical judgment? I was going to have fun with the bit. Also, I'm not going to entertain what you just said because I highly doubt he's still concerned about moving. I'm sure he is now because now he...
Come on the show, Ken. Tell us how you feel.
That's right.
Christian, that one time, nope, you won't ever have anybody on your show. What did he say that one time? He was like, oh, that's why you don't have anybody on your show ever. We know. It's a decision we've made.
I don't know what the hell you're talking
about. When I
about.
called in one time, Beardo's excuse was, or that one time, I don't know why.
The only time.
Beardo's excuse for not having us on Beardo is like, I only do them in person. I only do interviews in person. I said, hey, that's our excuse. And he said, well, that's probably why nobody comes on your show. And I was like, we know that we've made that decision. It's not like we just can't get anybody.
And he knows
There's plenty of people lining up to be on After Schmoe.
He knows better. So anyway, I don't remember. Oh, with Ken. Ken might get upset once they officially move to the studio because they might be moving farther away from the house he just moved into.
I was thinking about that. Didn't Beardo move closer to Burbank, specifically?
Maybe I don't know if it was for that reason, but I think
work there.
I think Riley has also kind of recently moved as well. So I don't know what the hell is going on over there.
Well, maybe we're just completely. I mean, I do know for a fact Beardo moved. I'm joking when I said he moved specifically for that because I mean, like I said, he doesn't even work there. But yeah, I mean, maybe Ken moved to be closer to the new studio.
How funny would it be if the entire reasoning behind this move was to be closer to JTE?
I mean, it could be. I don't know. I thought they were in Hollywood.
Screen Junkies is in Beverly Hills.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, Mark Riley, just a heads up. The copyright and use of the NCAA is prohibited. Did you notice that they spliced actual game footage into his video?
Yeah, but I figured that was, I mean, I don't think they did that. I think SeatGeek did that. I think SeatGeek was...
you think so?
Yeah. So first of all, just context of this, I follow one of the vloggers that I watch is also incorporated with SeatGeek.
Yeah.
And they do these super high-end ads within his videos.
Right.
So yeah, I think that was
interesting.
A SeatGeek thing.
I just thought that was funny. I was hoping that was in your notes.
bet SeatGeek loved that. Riley did a great job in that video.
He
very,
did.
Very funny.
I thought that was a really cool because it was.
I thought it was a really cool too.
It was a thing just that Riley could do. I thought that was nice.
Yeah.
Instead of I love the videos where they all went out to the Clippers games, to the WWE thing, but Riley got to go to the game with his fiance and with his college roommate. So I just thought that was really cool.
I think they missed a huge opportunity by not sending Finstock to a Kanye show when they had the mosh pits underneath the floating stage. Well, I don't even like this song. What am I supposed to do? Is that a good Finstock impression?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that they should send Finstock on assignment every time.
I agree.
Easily.
Did you watch the behind the scenes for last week's, the 300th episode?
I don't know. Did I?
I don't know. Did you?
Tell me a little bit about it, Jay.
I mean, it was just behind the scenes of the Schmoes Know live show.
It was titled, "Is This the Last Show?" or something like that.
Yeah. Finstock, legitimately wants to be on more.
Yeah. He also was just kind of being himself.
Yeah.
Like his actual self.
He wants to be involved. He wants to be involved of the thing more. Get him involved.
Involved of the thing more.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Jeff Dye.
Okay.
So, never heard of him.
Me
never
either.
seen him before in my entire life.
What a good-looking guy.
He was the most Schmoe guest. No. Let me switch that around. He was the most guest Schmoe I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Like, this almost had nothing to do with actually who he was and why he was on the show. He was just part of the show.
I think it's more to do with him.
Yeah, 100%.
The fact that he just had no, it seemed like anytime he would get into the show he was on, he just had no interest in talking about it. He's like, I don't want to talk about that. He would entertain it, but so much to say that he was just throwing people under the bus. William Shatner.
I thought that he was so much fun.
Yeah.
And that it didn't turn into, it never became like, now the Schmoes Know show is going to do this segment with this guest. It was just, this guy's here, and we're going to operate as usual. And again, most guests come on there, and they're not going to make fun of Pittsburgh in the way that he did right in front of Josh McCouga and get that great, because we all, every single Schmoevillian was watching that like,
See, I didn't find it. Everybody seemed to found it like a little bit awkward, like cringy almost.
No,
but I was like,
I was laughing.
I thought it was so fucking funny.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I guess maybe that's the wrong sound to make. But no, I was very entertained by that and very pleased and very happy.
But see, I was under the impression that they knew each other, that he and Josh McCouga knew each other.
Yeah, I think they do. Yeah.
How could you know Josh McCouga and not know? Like, watching it, it seemed like he didn't know what he was doing, like legitimately insulting him.
Yeah. I think my question there is, it's more so commentary on McCouga than it is Jeff Dye, because I think they did know each other, and I think they did acknowledge that. And maybe they've only hung out a couple times, like at a party or whatever.
Yeah.
But it says more about Josh McCouga that he hung out with a person and for once in his life never referenced that he was from Pittsburgh.
Right.
It doesn't say anything about Jeff Dye that he didn't know. It
seems impossible.
It's the fact that McCouga in that scenario would have been so out of character that he forgot to tell Jeff Dye whenever they hung out, hey, did you know I'm from Pittsburgh?
Right.
That's what's fascinating about that.
I agree.
I want to play basketball with all these guys.
I don't. I'm one of those people that he was describing.
You were one of the
6'3" people, rather good looking and just not good at basketball.
I think that I'm pretty lazy. I'm not really outgoing, but I think you might be one of the most sedentary people that I've ever met.
I could be. I mean, that's fair. I literally have to cater my life to doing it. And it's one of those things, the sad part about it is it's that statement to most people is like, oh, that guy's lazy.
Lazy's not the word. Yeah.
No. It's just my job forces me to literally sit in a specific spot for all day.
Jay, do you want to get a gym membership?
No, but I started running at the track. How do you feel about that?
You do all sorts of things without telling me. I'm fascinated.
You don't need to know my business.
Let's talk about how good looking Jeff Dye is for a second.
Okay.
You talked about it in your notes.
I did. He's got great teeth.
How fucking old is this guy? I was looking at him and I thought, if you told me that he was 15 or 45, I would have believed you either way.
Yeah.
He was an enigma, this guy. I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Early 30s?
You think so?
Yeah, 30 between the age of 30 and 35. He's also like referencing things that I grew up with, like Earthworm Jim.
Right. I grew up with Earthworm.
Except he called it a PlayStation game. It's clearly a Sega game.
But it was also on PlayStation.
I'm pretty sure it was just on Sega.
No. I had it on PlayStation.
Come at me, Kevin Marks. I feel like he would know.
Oh, please don't. So, I'm also very fascinated. Again, that segment wasn't so pluggy and it wasn't so much about him that maybe to a fault, I have no idea what fucking show he's on. He was talking about doing shit with Terry Bradshaw, and I
went to his Instagram.
What the hell is going on?
I went to his Instagram, and it's just filled with him hanging out with Terry Bradshaw.
Who is this guy?
I don't watch. I guess he's on NBC. I don't have television. Like, I don't have the ability to watch cable and network TV. I could watch it on Hulu, I guess, but
this
who just stumbles upon shit like that on Hulu?
Right. Speaking of NFL player interactions,
Jalen Jerry Rice.
Ellis had a great Jerry Rice story. I think I overheard that he told the story about how Jerry Rice treated Ellis very well. And Ellis said something like, or maybe Jeff said, that's how you treat your fans. And I didn't go back, but I thought in the moment I heard Makuga go, yes, I agree. Did that happen?
I don't know. I don't even know what you're making of that. You texted me this, and I don't know what to make of your interpretation of this.
I am under the impression that Makuga would never do anything like that.
I'm sure he would take a picture of. I'm sure he would take a picture with somebody. I don't think he really does these sort of interaction sort of things. You know what we never really get to see? I could just be completely wrong, but I never see like the Schmoes Know official. I don't know. I never see like things from the meet and greets. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't get a ton of video. I think we might have gotten something from Jedi Count or Star Wars Celebration, but they do these meet and greets sometimes, and I feel like it should be like a video.
The only thing that I remember like that is actually from Aaron Turner when he went to go.
Maybe that's what it was.
It was his video, I believe.
Yeah,
where he met everyone at Star Wars Celebration.
You'll get the occasional like. I mean, you get like pictures of people meeting Mark at stand-up shows, and I'm sure people have posted their individual like fan taken photos, but I don't know. Just thought they're like RB3 would be walking around taking pictures or something like that.
I think that's something that they could probably do more often now that these Collider screenings are picking up some pace. They're going to do this Back to the Future one. So as long as they keep having those types of events, I think that could be something that they look at.
Yeah.
That one random Steve that films Perry behind the scenes.
Yeah, that guy.
We can get him to do that. So after this point in the show, I forgot to continue to make notes. The only thing that I have left is LOL, Ken left.
Yeah, Ken did leave very abruptly. I mean, really the only thing left to say is congratulations to Josh Makuga on his wedding coming up. That's fantastic.
It's in 8 days when this show comes out.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get a behind the scenes Collider behind the scenes.
Which means he won't be on next week's show. Because this was the last time he was going to be.
Who's hosting TV Talk?
You know why? You know why he's not going to be? What? Oh, you mean like on his honeymoon?
Yeah. Grace?
Maybe Grace, probably. That would make the most sense. The last thing I want to say, talking about congratulating Makuga, did you see his fucking announcement on Instagram?
I did.
That's fucking nuts.
I did. I don't understand. I don't understand it though.
It's a show.
I mean, I understand what it is, but I don't understand how it can happen. Like because is he just traveling in California and around the West Coast?
That's not how I understand it. I mean, I don't think a travel channel would greenlight a show that was only about bar hopping in California.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
And so, I mean, I have so many questions. When did he film all these episodes? It's nuts that this is actually like literally his show.
Yeah.
Like so, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Riley or somebody, but screenshotted the pic of his TV hitting record for the series. And it's so weird seeing on your TV guide comedian bartender turned comedian Josh Makuga.
Yeah.
Go blah 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 blah. That's insanity.
I mean, these things legitimately launch careers into new stratospheres. I'm talking about an Adam Richman, I'm Burt Kreischer, the Andrew Zimmern, the guy Andrew Zimmern, the guy that did the Weird Eats and stuff. Anthony Bourdain. I mean, this is a big fucking deal.
Yes, it is.
It's a really big deal.
And arguably,
Josh, it's been nice knowing you on Collider and Schmoes Know.
Arguably one of the biggest things. That's like I remember Christian hosting something like for Spike TV. I think that was at Comic-Con, and obviously that's really huge as far as like being in the public eye like that. And there's probably like some kind of statistic where like Collider probably has more views than Spike TV does.
Probably
for shows like that.
I mean, but think about it.
It's closer than we think, anyway.
Think about it. What do you know Adam Richman from besides that one show that he does, the Man vs. Food?
I don't even know who that is. So
you know who Adam Richman is?
No.
Man vs. Food. He's been on Hot Ones. He's a big deal.
Is that the host of Cupcake Wars?
No.
Cake Boss?
The diners, drive-ins, and dives guy.
Guy Fieri?
Yeah. Guy Fieri.
Is Josh Macuga the next Guy Fieri?
Could be.
Do you think Macuga will come to a bar in Lexington?
Maybe.
Is there one?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of them. But I don't know which one he'd come to.
I didn't mean, like, is there a bar?
I could take you to a karaoke
Is there
bar.
a bar worthy enough to be on a Travel Channel show?
I don't know.
I
Could
don't know.
Finstock ever host a travel show?
Regardless, what if it like turns into some like Schmoes Know vanity thing, like where Macuga like purposefully just has Ellis on? Like, what if all of these guys like spring up in some of these episodes? That'd
Why
be
not?
Nuts.
I mean, it's
Well,
I mean,
because he, as far as I know, is traveling the country. None of these people are going with him. But
it's just an interesting avenue. Like I think for me to think about, and I know this is more like Collider talk, but it's just an interesting avenue to think about the fact that Collider and Schmoes Know is not the last stop for a lot of these people. Like
No,
they
it's
still
not.
have dreams and aspirations, to do stuff like this.
yeah. So anyway, huge congratulations, and I can't wait to set my DVR for that. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. It's fascinating to me because you watch them on Collider every day. I've always wondered what it's like to see these people do anything else. Like, I would love to see Ellis eventually get like a TV show or a Netflix special. Like, I want so much for these people, and so it's awesome to see something like this.
I hope
happen.
I can get it on Hulu.
Maybe
the day after. I hope so. That'd be the only way I could watch it, unless I bought the season pass on iTunes, which I might, just to support him.
Is that all you got?
It's pretty much it, man. Don't have anything else.
This episode wasn't as weird as I thought it would be.
No, it was a long episode.
Yeah,
a lot longer than usual. Got a lot of stuff coming up, though, that we can plug. Sight and Sound merch, dropping our entire fall line in October 1st. Tons of new merch, sightsoundpod.com. Also recapping Mr. Robot very, very soon.
Yeah.
I don't know if Collider has a show doing that. If they do, that's fine too. Both can exist. But if you are a Mr. Robot fan, then come check it out. If you're not a Mr. Robot fan, you're interested, go watch the entire season and then come hang out with us. You can find me on social media at Jaye Williams, J to the A to the Y to the E. On Twitter and Instagram, it's the same for both. Ryan, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at WhatUpSnell. And if you're listening to this right now and you are a member of the Schmoeville Facebook group, you probably know somebody by the name of Kristen Smith. She joined me yesterday on a Sight and Sound. We talked a lot about those trailers that we mentioned earlier, and we also reviewed Wind River, and she absolutely crushed it. So if you have an interest in that, go check it out. And that's all I got. I will see you. I'll see you next time.
All right, I'll see you later
on After Schmoe.
All right,
bye. Let's go eat.
Okay, bye.